So, before we begin today's episodes, we'd like to make a few announcements regarding our life. As you know, we haven't exactly recorded or published recently, and that's honestly just because life has gotten in the way. If we didn't mention it before, we both work full-time jobs, and I myself am actually a university student, and my semester is in full session right now.
And my job honestly just strains me, and with 2 cats to take care of, one cat is just full of an untapped amount of energy, and it drains me.
Yeah, you were never meant to have that much energy. It's okay.
No, I wasn't. I'm so tired.
Anyway.
Go fuck yourself.
Rude.
Sorry.
It's okay. Anyway, getting back to the point. So because of these circumstances, we have had trouble being consistent, and we recognize that, and we're honestly just trying to work out a way that we could be more consistent with our release schedule. So I promise going forward that there will be a lot more episodes released.
Yes, we're going to try our best. Again, we do have to have full-time jobs in order to maintain this, so
Yeah.
like if you guys don't want us to have full-time jobs, we you hear that? That is the sound of the donation box. It is completely empty.
Anyway, speaking of money, we actually learned recently that we can insert ads into our episodes now. We have enough listenership that we can finally include them. And I know that ads are annoying. No one really enjoys ever listening to them. I understand that. And
but they're a necessary evil.
They truly are. And honestly, like, we're not gonna go too far with this, okay? I promise that we won't riddle our episodes with ads, because I still want this to be an enjoyable experience for you guys.
And we genuinely do want to do this. We would love it if this became a sustainable career for us, to be honest.
It's honestly why we still try to go out of our way to do this.
To at least put out one episode is actually a really big deal for us.
Yeah.
So please forgive us if it takes so long.
Right, but because I'm in university at the moment, dealing with school assignments and such, there are going to be some solo episodes with just Yadira, or just me if I happen to find time and Yadira is busy. Going forward, there may be a little bit less of both of us together because of that, but again, I promise we're gonna try. In these solo episodes, for Yadira, I think you mentioned that you were gonna do storytelling.
Yep, mostly spooky stories and very popular creepypastas.
Yeah, and I figured that I would talk about TV shows specifically that are horror related. For example, I probably got buried in Netflix, but 28 Days Haunted, anybody?
My ribs.
Look, it's so bad that I feel like I have to acknowledge it because it's so bad.
I broke several ribs in the process of viewing it.
Yes.
That was a pretty bad hospital bill.
Yeah. You should exactly listen to it to support Yadira's hospital bills. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
The one where we gush about Junji Ito.
Welcome. If you heard our screams, it means that you may or may not die soon. Time will tell. We'll just read your obituary, if you actually die.
All right, yeah, great. Come on, let's move on to the whole thing and why we're here and why we're angry.
Yes. So I figured that we would take the calm, collected approach and really
Yeah, no,
present
not
an
happening. We're gonna be fucking pissed the whole time because I'm fucking pissed about this 99,000 Pinocchio adaptation getting all the attention and not a single ounce of it going to where it should have also gone, because you know what? The two creators are friends and he should have been just as outraged about this as I am.
You know how chill Junji Ito is. Like, you know for a fact.
And that is why I will be off the walls for him.
Okay. I get it. I truly do. But let's channel our...
I'm right.
You're right, but let's channel our anger a little bit. Okay, so I feel like I need to provide context as to why we're so outraged, especially Yadira. Why Yadira is outraged. So, see, what happened was Netflix decided to release an adaptation of Junji Ito's work. If you don't know, Junji Ito is a horror artist.
He's one of the greatest out there.
Yes, and his work got adapted into an anime, and guess what? They didn't promote it. We heard nothing about it. In fact, to this day, the day that we're recording this episode, Netflix has said nothing.
Like, literally all they announced was that something was going to be made, and then they would eventually come out with the release date. And then they never dropped the release date. They just put it out and didn't tell anybody, and then put out promotional posters very vaguely and very absently after the fact.
And what's crazy is, like, this is the second anime adaptation of Junji Ito's work, and honestly, you would think that we would learn some things from the first anime adaptation, but I have to keep this question in mind, and feel free to answer it in the comments. But what do you think is a worse sin? Creating an anime adaptation that has poor animation quality, or creating a relatively decent anime adaptation and not promoting it?
Honestly, the first one.
Okay, so...
Because then people would associate bad work with them, and they don't make bad work.
Okay. That is your stance on it. But you guys let us know what you personally think. That is, if you check this anime adaptation out, like any of the two that we mentioned. One is from Crunchyroll. The one we're talking about today, though, is from Netflix.
Both of them disappoint me on different levels.
Yes, and as such, we decided to take matters into our own hands and promote Junji Ito ourselves.
Yeah, we're just promoting him as a whole because he is a genuinely wonderful person, and he deserves his success, and he deserves nothing but happiness in his life, to be honest.
Yes. So, that being said, I'm sure as many of you now know, Junji Ito is a really good, great, actually, excellent, phenomenal horror artist from Japan. He has a huge portfolio of work.
He is every publisher's nightmare in terms of deadlines.
And if you have not checked him out, then you are truly missing out. Like, truly missing out. And if you haven't heard of him, then this is a good opportunity for you to learn about him and maybe buy some of his work.
Seriously, like, I have a majority of it already. I'm like looking at my stack right now, and what's disappointing me about it is it's not big enough. I don't have everything he's ever written, and I need it.
This is just another way of saying that Yadira has an addiction.
No, I don't.
You kind of do.
No, I don't.
Okay, you know what? I'm not arguing with you about this. This is about Junji Ito. We'll talk about your problems at a later date.
Doesn't mean that.
Did you just rub your stack of books?
They deserve my love and kindness.
Okay. I don't have time for this. Anyway.
And it's called a caress, not a rub. This is a rub. This is a caress.
Yadira. We're not arguing about this. We're here for Junji Ito. Get your shit together.
After you.
Anyway, let's talk about where Junji Ito started. So originally, he was not a horror manga artist at all. In fact, he wasn't even a manga artist.
I mean, even though he had kind of been trying to draw manga since he was like 4, but it wasn't his career path.
Yeah, it was like one of those hobbies that you really, really like, that you're really passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the thing is, he actually started out as a dental technician.
Yeah, but actually, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, the way he draws teeth, man.
Yeah, they really do be teething.
Yeah, they really do be teething.
Yes.
That's a saying. Anyway, so the way his career actually started was that he submitted a one-shot into a horror magazine, and it just so happened that he got a major award for it.
It's called the Kazuo Umezu Award. And fun fact about Kazuo Umezu is that he is also a very popular horror creator, and he was actually a great deal of inspiration for Junji Ito.
And not only was he a great deal, he was one of the judges.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, for the award.
That was named after himself. But like, he won that award. Junji Ito won that award, and after that, he took that one story that he submitted and he turned it into an entire series that lasted for 13 years, which very fitting number.
Could you imagine how amazing that must have felt to win an award that was judged by somebody that you admired?
Oh god, I would be on cloud 9 for the rest of my life after that.
Yeah. I'm so glad that it happened to him, and because like we received such amazing work from Junji Ito afterwards.
Like seriously, like this one story alone has become one of his most famous pieces, and it is called Tomie.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little more later on, but we figured that we'd try to give you a little more background about him first.
I guess we should start with his personal life.
Yeah.
Wikipedia has exactly one sentence about his personal life, and it reads, and I kid you not, this is literally just the one sentence. It's the only sentence about his personal life, and it reads,
in 2006, Ito married Ayako Ishiguro, a picture book artist. As of 2013, they have 2 children.
And that's it.
That's all.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine being so big, like so successful, and not having anything of your personal life out there?
No, can you imagine being so shy that nobody knows anything about you except that you have a wife?
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Like that's it. I would love to get to that level personally, because
of shyness or fame? Because this is shyness.
No, fame, because I'm already that shy. I struggle as it is. Okay.
And yet here you are making a podcast.
Yes, here I am making a podcast.
Honestly, I think you beat Junji Ito in terms of being not shy.
Yeah, I probably do.
Like think about it like this, folks. If you're dealing with some severe shyness, at least you're not Junji Ito shy.
You would think that he would post more about his personal life, especially with how parasocial relationships work these days. Mm-hmm. And technically, he does have a Twitter, but that being said, it is in Japanese, and neither of us speak Japanese.
And it's more like a work Twitter.
Yeah.
It's a work Twitter. It's like something that probably one of his publishers told him to put up and say like, hey, use this. And he's like, what do I say on it? Just talk about your books. Okay. When's my book coming out again? It's coming out on this day. Okay, great. I put up my first Twitter thing, and they're like, this is just an announcement of when your book is coming out, which we already put out for you. And he said, and then he responded with, but you said to make it about my books.
It's basically like a work email, yeah. Except like it's Twitter, and apparently we're his managers. I don't know.
His managers probably are kind of over it and just have decided, you know what, he's just going to tell people when his books are coming out.
Yeah, probably.
So there'll be just more than one announcement.
Yeah. And so obviously not much of an online presence. No, physically and spiritually.
He could have been taken over by an eldritch god long ago, but for all we know, he hasn't, or he has. But, we don't know him personally.
Yeah, it's all alleged.
It's all alleged.
Yeah, so that being said, let's go on to his body of work because, man, there's so much.
It's quite the stack, if you ask me.
She's so proud of this stack, guys.
I have almost every North American release. Almost. I still haven't gotten the new one, which I didn't get around to pre-ordering because life.
Yeah.
Those are expensive.
Yes. So, as we mentioned earlier, let's talk about Tomie. Yadira, why don't you read the back of the book for us?
Murdered again and again. One girl always comes back for more. Tomie Kawakami is a femme fatale with long black hair and a beauty mark just under her left eye. She can seduce nearly any man and drive them to murder as well, even though the victim is often Tomie herself. While one lover seeks to keep her for himself, another grows terrified of the immortal succubus. But soon they realize that no matter how many times they kill her, the world will never be free from Tomie.
Did you like her reading, guys? I liked it. Anyway, so with Tomie, we don't really get an origin story, just letting you know if you decide to purchase this one.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of almost like a Monster of the Week setup.
Yeah.
Except, it's more or less, who is the victim this week? Why is it always Tomie?
And sometimes you can't tell at all.
Yeah.
Who the bad guy is.
Yeah, honestly, just think of Kenny McCormick from South Park.
Oh my god! Kenny killed Death!
Yeah, so, as I said, there's no origin story, but I actually have a theory about this one.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Yeah. So my theory is that Tomie originally started out as one person, right? Because the whole thing in this book, the whole theme in this book is that she basically can clone herself.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. If you want to know more, just read, okay?
Yeah, just read it.
Yeah, anyway, point is, Tomie is a being that can clone herself. But my theory is that she started out as a single human being, right? And as a human being, she was very vain, very shallow, very focused on her own looks. She really liked her own looks. And she wanted to preserve it because, as we all know, age can deteriorate beauty. Some people just don't age gracefully. And she wanted to be youthful and look beautiful forever. So she turned to occult methods and tried to become immortal, tried to find the fountain of youth, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
However, this backfired because she did not become immortal in the way that she expected, in the way that she would live forever with the same face, same body, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, she simply cloned herself.
Yeah.
Anytime that
she kind of sprouts back.
Anytime that she died, I guess.
She kind of sprouts back like that weird yellow fungus that exists in nature that kind of just webs itself all over everything.
Yeah, so she does get resurrected, but not in the way that you think. She is by no means a phoenix that rises from the ashes.
It's really freaking gross, man. It looks positively disgusting.
Yeah, and the reason why I think this way is because, so typically speaking, in a lot of comic books, anytime there are clones, sometimes they clone to the point where you're not sure who the original is anymore, and the clones just start attacking one another.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what happens in Tomie.
Yeah, but the difference here is that all the Tomie clones think that they're the original Tomie.
I mean, isn't that what happens in comic books as well?
No, they all know that they're clones, but they don't know which number, if that makes any sense.
I know, but they all point to each other. They're like, oh no, that one's a fake, no, that one's the imposter.
Well, I mean, that's what clones do.
Yeah,
but in this sense, in this case, it feels like Tomie, all the Tomies assume that automatically they're the original Tomie that all the Tomies came from. Even though, like, they're sprouting limbs as they shout this at each other.
Yeah.
At themselves.
Yeah, they're basically like cells that are going through fission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. So let's move on to another amazing piece of work from Junji Ito. Let's talk about Gyo.
Something's rotten in Okinawa. The floating smell of death hangs over the island. What is it? A strange, legged fish appears on the scene. So begins Tadashi and Kaori's spiral into the horror and stench of the sea. Here is the creepiest masterpiece of horror manga ever, from the creator of Uzumaki, Junji Ito. Hold your breath until all is revealed.
So Gyo was actually the first book I ever read from Junji Ito. Up until that point, I had never heard of him, and Yudira was gracious enough to lend me that book. And honestly, I read it like 3 times. Like within a span of 2 days, I read it 3 times.
It took me a while to actually read Uzumaki. That's probably why.
Oh.
I started reading Uzumaki. You said you wanted to read that one first, but then I was like, I'm still reading it. So you were like, okay, give me Gyo. And it took a while.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not mad about it because I thoroughly enjoyed Gyo.
Like, Gyo is such a good one. Like, the artwork, the story. Like, if you guys love sci-fi, this is the book for you.
Like, truly. And the work was just so grotesque.
Like,
in the best way possible.
My God, it is horrifying. Like, the concept is horrifying. Like, the concept of how everything works, because I don't want to spoil any of this, I want y'all to read it, is disturbed. Should Junji Ito be locked away for just even thinking of this? I don't know. It's that gross. It's that depraved and horrifying. Jesus. Jesus was not in the room when this was created.
Honestly.
It was so good. Honestly, you guys have got to read it. Like, if you haven't, you have to.
You truly do. And that's all we're gonna say about it. Because I refuse to give any major spoilers about any of these books that we're going to mention today.
Seriously. Like, you've got to read these for yourselves.
Yeah, so with that being said, let's move on to Uzumaki.
Spirals. This town is contaminated with spirals. Kurozucho, a small, fog-bound town on the coast of Japan, is cursed. According to Suichi Saito, the withdrawn boyfriend of teenager Kirigoshima, their town is haunted, not by a person or being, but a pattern, Uzumaki, the spiral, the hypnotic secret shape of the world. This bizarre masterpiece of horror manga is now available in a single volume. Fall into a whirlpool of terror.
Okay, so Uzumaki, I believe, is his magnum opus.
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
It is considered to be his magnum opus. One of his most terrifying in concept and in imagery pieces of work. It really, really drives home what eldritch horror is. Because there's no stopping what nature is. And nature, as we know it as the human race, is something that not only can we not prevent or stop, it just is. And there's nothing we can do about it.
Now, I understand if you don't really have an idea of what eldritch horror is.
Think of Cthulhu?
Yeah, I guess. Like, you may be one of those people who've never really read H.P. Lovecraft, or maybe you never watched It from Stephen King.
Or maybe you've never heard of The King in Yellow.
Right. But I would say that if you want exposure to eldritch horror, Uzumaki is a great place to start.
It really is. and it lets you it, like, if you're not as vivid in the imagination as I am, it might actually help you visualize it better, because there is no explanation for what you're actually reading or seeing on the pages.
Truly. And I think that's a good place to leave it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah, let's talk about Deserter.
An ever-increasing malice, a mind-numbing terror. See the seeds of horror sown in this collection of Junji Ito's earliest works. A vengeful family hides an army deserter for 8 years after the end of World War II, cocooning him in a false sense of reality where the war never ended. A pair of girls look alike, but they're not twins, and a boy's nightmare threatens to spill out into the real world. This hauntingly strange story collection showcases a dozen of Junji Ito's earliest works from when he burst onto the horror scene, sowing fresh seeds of terror.
So, just to be clear, this is technically a newer release, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the newer ones, like second to newest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, because you're the one who buys all of these.
Yep.
So I'm
And I
not
still
fully
need to-
clear on the order.
Yep, and I still need to order the brand new one.
Are you sure you don't have a problem?
I do not. My only problem is that I don't have the new one.
Okay. We'll work on that later.
Yes, I'll go on Amazon probably after this.
That's not what I meant.
That's exactly what you meant. What are you talking about? Anyway,
Wait.
Deserter actually was put into the new Junji Ito anime.
Right, so there are multiple episodes
Yes.
that involve stories from Deserter. In general, this anime at least focuses less on Suichi.
Yeah.
Because I remember the one from Crunchyroll was like
Obsessed
mostly,
with him.
yeah, it was like majority Suichi.
Which, honestly, not a bad call given how bad the animation was.
Yeah, Suichi is for sure one of the more entertaining, zany stories
he's very
from Junji
zany
Ito.
and spooky. He is the epitome of their kooky and their spooky.
Yeah.
Maybe a distant relative of the Addams family, or maybe a possible suitor for Wednesday Addams, or maybe Pugsley's pen pal. I don't know.
I could see that. I could 100% see
Uncle
that.
Fester's long lost love child.
Yeah. Yes, actually. But anyway,
our fan theories.
Anyway, Deserter is actually I would say pretty unhinged because it's like early Ito, and early Ito was just he was intense.
Oh yeah, no, this dude, the one with the dude's nightmares spilling out into the real world, oh my god, oh god, no, why doesn't my brain visualize sounds? I can hear it. It tickles my spine in a bad way. I don't like it. It was so good. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say that about everything he's ever written. I'm sorry.
I will say that if you are neurodivergent at all, you may actually feel some of his drawings. I'm just letting you know.
No, I'm getting the weird feelings in my legs. Damn it, why did I have to bring up that one?
Well, it was pretty memorable.
It is singed into my brain. And the worst part is he didn't show us what the guy looked like.
I mean, we didn't need to know.
We didn't need to know, but like my brain runs wild with that thing. I'm sure that's what he wanted. So like Junji Ito, if you ever find yourself listening to this podcast, good job. Good job. You did great.
Anyway, so let's move on. So the next one on the list is Liminal Zone.
What destiny awaits them after the wailing? After abruptly departing from a train in a small town, a couple encounters a weeping woman, a professional mourner, sobbing inconsolably at a funeral. Mako changes afterward. She can't stop crying. In another tale, having decided to die together, a couple enters Akigahara, the infamous suicide forest. What is the shocking, otherworldly torrent that they discover there? One of horror's greatest talents, Junji Ito, beckons readers to join him in an experience of ultimate horror with 4 transcendingly terrifying tales.
Okay, so that's another one off the list.
Yep.
So, the liminal zone was more or less, like, at least it felt like to me, a commentary.
No, that was censor.
That was censor?
Yes.
Am I confusing the two?
Yes, you're confusing the two.
I am
This one
confusing
had
the
the
two.
professional mourner.
Oh, yeah!
You know,
Yeah.
basically what I was about to assume was a La Llorona type character, but thank God she wasn't. And it had the 2 girls in it, I think.
Oh, no, okay. It's all coming back to me. It's coming back.
There you go. You're remembering, sort of.
Sort of, kind of.
Look, we've read so many of these. It's hard to keep track
we
of
ended
which
up
ones.
binging a lot of these for this episode, actually. We've been... there were so many books.
I read 6 of them within 7 days.
I was trying to cram. I tried to cram all of them. And Yadira, by the way, has a lot. I think she has more than 12, actually.
Let's
And-
see. 17.
So, okay. So I was right, more than 12. I tried to cram that into a span of 3 days. So some of them have kind of sort of blurred together for me.
And look, before any of you say, but it's manga, it's picture. Yes, it's pictures, but Junji Ito puts a lot of dialogue. So get over it.
It's a lot of dialogue, but also his artwork is just intense.
Like,
And like there are images within his books that are like you really have to stop and look at it.
yeah,
Like you can't move on.
Like I'm not even joking when I say this. While I was reading Love Sickness, I actually slammed the book shut and just actually let out a small yelp because I was like, oh my god, what the fuck. It was a lot to take in with one particular image. It's also seared into my mind, unfortunately. It was a really intense image. But there's a lot of that in all of his books. So he's good at what he does, and he is every single publisher's worst nightmare because he draws these by hand.
Yeah, and like okay, with the way
All
he
of
draws
them.
things, sometimes you can feel the textures.
You really can.
Like, for example, in Tomie, calling back to earlier, there are parts, like there are pages in Tomie where it's like you feel slimy.
Yeah, like you can feel the fleshy gooiness of it all, and like and sometimes you can hear the sounds that these things are making. Like in Uzumaki, there was a particular scene where something fleshy was moving and turning, and I could just hear it, and I can hear it now, and it's icky.
Yeah.
Like in order to understand what we're talking about, you literally have to read these things. So
yeah, and for the record, Liminal Zone is no different.
It's really not. The end of that one. No, I can feel the water that didn't come from a natural water source. Look, you have to read it. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
You have to read it yourself.
So, moving on to Censor, the one I said that was a commentary.
Did she wander in, or was she drawn in? A woman walks alone at the foot of Mount Sengoku. A man appears, saying he's been waiting for her, and invites her to a nearby village. Surprisingly, the village is covered in hair-like volcanic glass fibers, all shining a bright gold. That night, as the villagers gaze up at the starry sky, countless unidentified flying objects come raining down on them. The opening act for the terror about to occur.
If I'm remembering things correctly, Censor was actually not the first title that they came up with
No, it was
for that book.
It had a different title before. Let me skim through this book really fast. I know it says it somewhere in the beginning of it. I'm not going to read the entire thing. Dang it. Why can't I open pages? Do you guys like this ASMR that's happening right now? Gosh, where is it? Okay, here's the afterword. Okay, so the original title of this was supposed to be The Travelogue of the Succubus.
Yeah, so this one is the one that for sure felt like a commentary. And that's what's interesting about horror, is you can do so much with it.
Mm.
And I find it interesting that Junji Ito chose to do so.
With that particular subject on, honestly, something that it feels like Japan has subtly gotten over, but at the same time, you can tell that they kind of haven't. And if you're a history nut about Japan, you might know what we're already talking about, because it was also similarly discussed in an anime by the title of Samurai Champloo. So if you guys watch that one, you definitely know what I'm talking about now.
By the way, if you haven't watched Samurai Champloo, highly recommend.
10 out of 10 anime.
Like, the animation style to that anime is just, it's so unique.
And it's so delightful. It's action packed, it's funny. The characters are super likable. And yeah, you're just gonna love it, I promise.
Yeah.
But like, let's go back to Junji Ito, please.
Sorry. Sorry.
Like we said, Censor is one of his more commentative stories.
Yes.
If that's a word.
And it wasn't necessarily scary. That's the thing. Like, it was scary, but it wasn't like...
It wasn't nail-bitingly horrifying.
Yeah.
It had something to say, and we're not going to tell you what it is, because like we said, and like we're going to keep saying, we want you guys to read these.
Yeah, no, if our reactions, like telling you about how we feel reading these books, is not selling it to you...
We don't know how to sell things.
Like, in general, we don't know how to sell things. But so this is like the only way that we know how, and we wouldn't know any other way.
Right. All right.
Oh, for the record, we are not making any money off of this.
Yet.
I mean, off of like
like from
Ito.
From Viz Media. Also, Viz Media is the one that is the one putting these out. So if you want to go straight to their website, it's at Viz Media. Blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
It's at Viz Media.
Yeah, Viz as in V-I-Z.
Yes, and then you guys should know how to spell media.
Okay, moving on. So the dissolving classroom.
Oh god, this one.
A pair of twisted siblings, Yuma, a young man obsessed with the devil, and Shizumi, the worst little sister in recorded history, cause all sorts of tragic and terrifying things to happen wherever they go. These scary short stories will shock you with a literal interpretation of the ills that plague modern society.
This particular story from Ito, how do I describe it? I would say it's campy.
It's super camp.
So if I recall, you had a very unique experience reading this book.
Yeah. You know what? We're leaving that in.
Sure.
But yeah, I did. She was there for that.
Yeah.
So when I had gotten this book, like I've said, I just buy Junji Ito books. I don't read the descriptions. I don't bother getting a synopsis. I just see his name and I buy it. So I just bought Dissolving Classroom because I thought it would be a fun read because it's from him. I'm one of those people. And I finally get the book in my hands, and then I finally eventually get time to read it like a month later. And I start reading it, and I have no idea at the time, but I am about to get the worst cold I've had in a few years. And I start reading it, and I get to the part where they're explaining why it's probably called Dissolving Classroom. And I'm just like, that's a really weird way for people to die. And then, because, like, they just said, I'm not going to say what it was that was killing people, but, like, they just say, yes, this is what's killing people, and we don't know how to stop it. But they don't explain the process of the killings. And so then I start seeing people that he's spoken to start sneezing really bad. And, like, it's like that thick, gross mucus that I was having at that moment because I had the flu. And I was really confused. And I was like, that's a weird coincidence. So then I read another page where he's apologizing. I sneeze again. I'm like, that's really weird, and I don't like where this is going now. So I turn the page, and the girl kind of realizes that it's his apologizing that is slowly melting her brain and making her stupid. So I closed the book, I set it down, and I hid under my blankets, and I didn't pick that book up for a month.
That's such a... That's the logic of a child.
I had a fever! Right? I had a fever! It was such a bad fever. I panicked. I wasn't getting any better. And I was freaking out because I felt really slow and groggy. It was the fever.
Okay, but did you continue reading it after you got better?
A month later.
A month after you recovered.
Yes. I was still freaking out a little bit. I was like, that was way too coincidental. I was way too coincidental for my comfort. So I kind of just didn't read it for a month. Look, but I do highly recommend the book because it is fun.
It is fun, and it's campy, and
just don't read it when you're during allergy season or when you have a fever.
If for nothing else, read the book so you can make fun of Yudira.
Shut up! It was valid!
Okay, so moving on from your traumatic experience, let's move on to the next one, because we still have a lot to go through.
Yeah, honestly, some of these we should just, like, speed through.
Okay. Coming up, you have Love Sickness.
So, because of the nature of this book, we might not speed through it. We might give a slight content warning on it.
Oh, yes.
But let me read you the description.
An intoxicating beauty turns a small town into a bloody hell. Ryusuke returns to the town where he once lived when rumors begin swirling about girls killing themselves after encountering a bewitchingly handsome young man. Harboring his own secret from his time spent in this town, Ryusuke attempts to capture the beautiful boy and close the case. Starting with the strikingly bloody Love Sickness, this volume collects 10 stories showcasing horror master Junji Ito in peak form, including the strange Hikizuri siblings and the Rib Woman.
Honestly, I really do think those last two stories are put in there to calm your mind. Love Sickness was a lot.
Yeah.
So first off, we said content warning because a lot of the horror in that one comes from a lot of self-termination and self-harm. And if you guys are listening and you do struggle with that, please know that you are loved. We care about you guys. We want you to take care of yourself. If you need to, find someone and talk to them.
And we also don't recommend this book to you if you feel that you wouldn't be able to handle it or you would be triggered by it.
Mm-hmm. That being said, for those of you who can handle it or are willing to look past it, it is a very, very good read. And I think it was meant to be a commentary on society from his perspective and the pressure that some young ladies, unfortunately, are put under to be romantically involved with someone.
It's one of those books that kind of stick with you because of those themes and what he's saying.
Because, like, the thing is, and he kind of says it in the story itself, he kind of basically says you aren't in love with someone, you're in love with the idea of being in love.
And along with that comes a lot of struggles and a lot of heartache that you could honestly save yourself and the other person.
And it becomes, and it stops being love, to be honest, it becomes obsession.
Right.
Because you, like I said, you aren't in love with the person, you're in love with the idea of being in love, and that becomes an obsession with being in love. So you become kind of deranged, even.
Exactly.
Because it's not love that makes you do crazy things, it's obsession that makes you do crazy things.
Exactly. And for those reasons, we would also like to give a small piece of relationship advice. Really consider whether, when getting into a relationship, whether you truly love them or you love the idea of them.
And remember that falling in love isn't instantaneously. It's something that takes time and hard work. Not easy work, hard work. So you can't just buy flowers and call it a day. You have to communicate, and you have to be there for each other in the best of times and especially the worst of times.
So I understand that's probably unsolicited advice that you didn't ask for.
Especially in a podcast where we're talking about Junji Ito, a horror creator.
But we felt that the book kind of, like, because of the things that happened in the book, that it was necessary.
Yeah, so remember, you are more valuable than your relationships. So take care of yourself first before you take care of your partner.
Right. And with that, let's move on
to Shiver!
Including 9 of Junji Ito's best short stories, as selected by the author himself, and presented with accompanying notes and commentary. An arm, peppered with tiny holes, dangles from a sick girl's window. After an idol hangs herself, balloons bearing the faces of their destined victims appear in the sky. An amateur film crew hires an extremely individualistic fashion model and faces a real bloody ending. An offering of 9 fresh nightmares for the delectation of horror fans.
These are the stories that he likes the most.
That's right.
And honestly, a very interesting set of choices.
I suppose, yeah, well, yeah, it's pretty eclectic, actually.
Like, I'm just gonna read off a few titles. Used Record, Shiver, Fashion Model, Hanging Blimp, Marionette Mansion, Painter, The Long Dream, Honored Ancestors, and this one is the most interesting title to me, Greased, and a previously unpublished story, Fashion Model, Cursed Frame.
So in a lot of Junji Ito books, like, yes, a lot of them are anthologies, but sometimes they have like a running theme between them. And this is one of those where, like, some of them are like somewhat connected, but some of them are not connected at all.
Yeah, they're just stories he really happened to like a lot.
Yeah.
That's all I can really say about it. Oh, geez, the next one is a behemoth of a story.
Ooh, okay. So this one we may have to take a moment to really discuss it.
Because was a lot.
We're talking about No Longer Human.
Mine has been a life of much shame. I can't even guess myself what it must be to live the life of a human being. Plagued by a maddening anxiety, the terrible disconnect between his own concept of happiness and joy of the rest of the world, Yozo Oba plays the clown in his dissolute life, holding up a mask for those around him as he spirals ever downward, locked arm in arm with death. Osamu Dazai's immortal and supposedly autobiographical work of Japanese literature is perfectly adapted here into a manga by Junji Ito. The imagery wrenches open the text of the novel, one line at a time, to sublimate Yozo's mental landscape into something even more delicate, and grotesque. This is The Ultimate Art by Ito, proof that nothing can surpass the terror of the human psyche.
So, No Longer Human.
This one was one of the one of I would say it's one of the adaptations that Junji Ito has done, because he's done a couple adaptations.
A few. And this is the most intense one.
So
This also, unfortunately, we can't just gloss over this one. It needs quite a few content warnings, to be honest.
So there are mentions of sexual assault,
Self-harm,
child abuse,
child self-harm,
and of course suicide.
Again, we urge you to reach out if you are feeling these things. If you are being hurt by someone, there are people out there that will help you. I promise you, there's always a way out. And if you feel a particularly disturbing disconnect from your own humanity and humanity as a whole, I promise you, you can get help for that too. You just have to put in the work for it. You have to work to better yourself so that you do not end up like Osamu Dazai.
So the novel is basically the source material that Junji Ito's book pulls from is a confession, supposedly, of his life and events that may or may not have happened.
See, the book takes place during a point in time where record keeping isn't what it is.
So some things may be true, some details may not be true at all. We have no real way of confirming anything.
But it does sound like innocent people were harmed as a result of certain actions taken by the author.
And because it's an autobiography, it truly is a journey.
It's literally peeking into the entire life of one person and their mental state throughout the entire thing.
And we view everything from their lens. And at the same time, I couldn't help while reading this one, but it like made me want to scream at times. Because at times there were solutions, right? That I was like, you could do this, and this would be the easy way around the conflict that you're experiencing. Like, you know how sometimes you have a friend who, I don't know how common this is, but at least like I have had friends where they're going through things, and like you propose solutions that you think would be relatively easy to do, would really help them out, but like it's one of those things where they're so wrapped up into whatever it is that they're going through that they just can't see a way out.
And they shoot down any solution before even trying it, as if they've already lost complete hope in life itself.
Yeah, and reading this gives you that sense of hopelessness. Like, you want to, it's like you want to snap them out of it, but you just can't.
Mm-hmm. And the first time I read this book, for me, and this is a weird trap that I know other people have fallen into, but if a particular writer that you're fond of wrote it, you just get it. You just buy it immediately. You don't read any summaries. You don't read any reviews. You just get the book and you just start reading it. And I didn't read any of the descriptions. I just saw, ooh, a new title from Junji Ito. I'm getting it. I got it. I didn't read the book description or anything beyond what the author had written. And I thought, wow, this is a really twisted book from Junji Ito. And then I read the description. And then I read about the author who wrote the original novel of No Longer Human. And honestly, part of me wanted to cry. And part of me was horrified that a human being like this existed at some point in time.
Allegedly.
But
this is a fact about the author. He didn't go alone. He convinced a mistress of his to go with him, if you guys catch my drift. And she was a lot younger than him. So I don't want to say he groomed her, but it feels like that's what happened.
Like, okay, so this is one of those stories where, like, there isn't a clear-cut hero and villain.
Honestly, I think it's really clear who the villain is.
You think so?
I
Because
think
I
so.
think there were. I think here's the lens I'm viewing it as. Like, normally you want to give a lot of grace to victims, right? But in this case, it was like, as much as I wanted to give him grace, he did some really deplorable things.
And to the point where I couldn't help but feel he was the victim, to be honest. I mean, he was the villain. I mean, not the victim, but he did start as a victim, but quickly ascended to the same level as the villains in his life.
Like, I both understood him and why he was the way he was, but at the same time, I couldn't get past the things that he did.
Yeah, like I've heard a YouTuber by the name of Shady Do Rags put it like this, basically. While I can understand why a person is the way that they are, that doesn't excuse what they've done.
And this is a really good example of that.
Yeah, it is a phenomenal read, though, but I do want you guys to know that there is a content warning from us for a reason.
And if you have the mental and emotional capacity to read it, I highly recommend that you do.
I guess moving on.
Yeah.
Real quick.
So this is.
Oh my god.
What?
Oh my god. Okay, so remember how I said I needed to order the new Junji Ito book?
Yeah.
That was coming out this month?
Yeah.
So I was looking at that, like, right after I placed the order for it, which I placed it while you were talking, don't judge me. Amazon recommended me something else to pre-order.
Wait, there's another one?
There's another one coming out soon in August.
You're smiling. Which one is it?
It's Suichi!
Weren't we just talking about that?
We were!
Hold
my
on.
god. I
Hold
have to wait
on.
till next payday to order it, though. Ah! Oh my god, I'm so excited!
That's going to be a really fun read.
Oh my god.
I already know, and I can't wait for you to pre-order it because I'm going to borrow it from you.
She never buys her own.
I don't have the space. You're the one with the shelves.
I am the private
emphasis
library.
on the plural. Shelves.
Most of those shelves have Funko Pops.
Okay, and? Well, no, you'll technically only have 2. Wait, does that mean your Funko Pop collection is more of a problem than your book collection?
No, neither of them are a problem. The problem is I don't have enough.
Uh-huh.
I need to move my doll collection.
Idira?
I don't have a problem.
Anyway, we're not here for that. Okay, so Suichi is coming out. When is it coming out?
Let me see what the pre-order info says. Suichi will be coming out August 1st.
Okay, and at the time that we're figuring this out...
Oh wait, no, the release date, my bad. The release date is July 25th.
Whoa, okay.
My bad. I was looking at when it would when it would deliver for free, not when it would be released.
Okay. Okay. So at the time that we're recording this, it's March. So that means in, let's see, April, May, June.
Coming soon to a bookstore near you.
In like 4 months. In 4 months.
I'm so excited. Another one for the collection. Oh gosh, it'll go up to 19.
Oh no.
Oh yes, that means I'll be at 21 real soon.
Yeah. Do you know how concerned I am about your collection?
Not at all. That's how concerned you are. You're not. Shut up.
Okay.
Let's move on to the next one. It's another adaptation of another popular, famous author from Mary Shelley.
and Junji Ito, we have Frankenstein.
Okay, so Frankenstein is one of those stories that have been adapted.
Don't you want to read the thingy?
Oh, that's right. Go, do it.
Okay. Before you jump the gun again and like how I did.
Okay, fine.
Junji Ito meets Mary Shelley. The master of horror manga bends all his skill into bringing the anguished and solitary monster, and the fouler beast who created him, to life with this brilliantly detailed chiaroscuro for which he is known. Also included are 6 tales of Oshikiri, a high school student who lives in a decaying mansion connected to a haunted parallel world, uncanny doppelgangers, unfortunately murdered friends, and a whole lot more are in store for him. Bonus! The Ito family dog! Thrill to the adventures of Non Ito, an adorable Maltese.
They put that there to make you get over the Frankenstein's monster and how it looks in this one.
Okay. So, as I said earlier, Frankenstein is one of those stories that, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that it's been adapted into numerous adaptations, like multiple different movies.
Some successful, some not so.
And I'm pretty sure that's not the only Frankenstein adapted comic.
No, it's not. There have been
out
quite
there.
a few
Yeah.
Frankenstein anime, manga, comic books. All kinds. Some of them didn't work, some of them worked, some of them completely reimagined everything. So that was fun.
Yeah, but Ito's adaptation, I would say, is one of the best ones that I've seen, honestly.
It made the monster look absolutely revolting.
And like, one of the trademarks of Ito is his detail, and and for that reason, it brought a lot of life to the story.
Get it?
Yeah. See what I did there? I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. It's really good. Also, that Maltese story, really fun, really cute.
Yeah, it's a nice palate cleanser.
It's a really good palate cleanser. Because, honestly, that monster is a lot to look at. If the monster is real, though, please don't come after me. I'm just saying you were drawn in a very unflattering way. But, like, in a good way. Unflattering in a good way, as in absolute nightmare fuel.
Yeah, and because it's Frankenstein, you know, a very, very popular story, we're not going to spend much time on it. So we're moving on now.
Okay, next one is Smashed.
13 chilling nightmares presented by the Master of Horror. Try not to be noticed when you eat the secret nectar. Otherwise, you'll get smashed. What horrific events happen to create the Earthbound? People tied to a certain place for the rest of their short lives? A strange haunted house comes to town, but no one expects it to lead to a real hell. Welcome to Junji Ito's world, a world with no escape from endless nightmares.
That sound you keep hearing is me putting the book down in its separate pile.
Yeah, we figured it'd be fun to emphasize Yadira's problem.
Shush, it's not a problem. My only problem is that I don't have them all. Just like the Funko Pops, I have to, it says it on the box, collect them all. I'd be disrespecting them if I didn't do
These
that.
These books aren't Pokemon.
Shush!
You don't have to have them all.
Yes, I do.
I don't know why I keep bringing this up. I'm sorry, guys. I just think it's excessive at times, the amount of books and Funko Pops that she has.
The problem seems to have gotten so severe that the police are coming to arrest you for accusing me of lies. Don't you hear the sirens?
Sure. Anyway, so we're gonna try to speed through these, as we said, so let's move on.
Yeah, oh, also, Smashed. Fun book. Nectar is my favorite story in that one. The Nectar story is, it's not called Nectar, it's called Smashed, but it's my favorite one in that story, so.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Fragments of Horror.
Okay.
An old wooden mansion that turns on its inhabitants. A dissection class with a most unusual subject. A funeral where the dead are definitely not laid to rest, ranging from the terrifying to the comedic. From the erotic to the loathsome, these stories showcase Junji Ito's long-awaited return to the world of horror.
So actually, when I first saw this book, because I did borrow from you, I couldn't help but think that the cover was inspired by that painting, the Scream.
Oh, it definitely is.
Yeah.
I love where he gets his inspiration from. It's just random bits and bobs all the time. Oh my god, I opened it at the one image I don't like. It's also a fun read. I really do like that the story that obviously inspired that image where he's holding his head. That one was a lot of fun, I think.
I think just in general, his artwork in that one is a lot of fun.
It is.
It's like, it's almost comedic at times.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, not to flex on all you horror writers out there, but Junji Ito has a perfect balance of campy horror goodness and delightful, terrifying, existential horror and eldritch horror. So, I mean, get your shit together, maybe?
I would love some good horror reads, some more good horror manga.
Right. Like, I mean, there's a lot of good horror manga out there, but we want more of it.
I mean, this is a horror podcast.
Look, just to be fair to every manga writer out there, here's one recommendation for a horror manga that's really good. Blood on the Tracks. Just go on Amazon, buy the book, or find what was the name of the author for Blood on the Tracks again? From Shuzo Oshimi. It's a really good read. The horror is more existential, I think.
Yeah.
It's really good. I promise you that. If you see there, look, we're fair to other writers.
Actually, if you want a good, thrilling horror manga, I would recommend Bastard.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a really good one.
Yes. I've also heard, what was another good one?
Oh, Sweet Home was really good.
Sweet Home. She's mostly recommending Korean stuff.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
And if you're more into zombie horror, there's also this series called Fate of the Apocalypse, which I really recommend. I thought the visuals were very interesting. But I promise we'll move on because we're getting a little off track.
Yeah. But there's a bunch of good stuff out there. We promise you. We aren't being biased with Ito. We do read other horror artists. Ito has a special place in our hearts because, as I mentioned many times already, he is the type of person I would share a basket of fries with at a diner.
And honestly, he was actually my first introduction to at least Japanese horror manga. So he kind of started it all for me. He started the rabbit hole for me.
Okay, moving on to the next work, Venus in the Blind Spot.
Now, the cover to this one, is just beautiful.
It's gorgeous, to be honest. If you don't buy the book, at least buy a poster of the book.
This striking collection presents the most remarkable short works of Junji Ito's career, featuring an adaptation of Itogawa Ranpo's classic horror story, The Human Chair, and fan favorite, The Enigma of Amigara Fault, with a deluxe presentation including special color pages and showcasing illustrations from his acclaimed long-form manga, No Longer Human. Each chilling tale invites readers to revel in a world of terror.
So, we're almost done, thank goodness.
This is a monster of a thing to record, and it's going to be a monster of a thing to edit. Ugh.
Okay, so any notes you want to make about that one?
It's beautiful to look at, to be honest. It definitely, it has a good chunk of his artwork in that one. I think just presenting his artwork, because like the description said, it's just showing off his work at this point. This was honestly, I think, a show-off piece.
I think it was. The actual story itself, I don't remember it all that well.
I kind of do.
Yeah.
But it's good. I promise you it's good. I think this one just wanted to be an art book instead, but they were like, no, let's just make it a volumized thing.
Yeah.
And then they did that last minute.
Okay, so let's move on. Black Paradox.
This is another one with a content warning of a serious issue again.
I saw it. A dazzling world. Yes, another world. I'm sure I saw a world that was not this one. 4 people intent on killing themselves meet through the suicide website Black Paradox. Maruso, a nurse who despairs about the future. Taburo, a man who is tortured by his doppelganger. Piton, an engineer with his own robot clone. And Barachi, a woman who agonizes about the birthmark on her face. They wander together in search of the perfect death, fatefully opening a door that leads them to a rather bizarre destiny.
So this one was very Black Mirror-esque.
Yeah, with a good sprinkling of eldritch horror.
Yeah, and like the thing that drives the story is what we were kind of trying to warn you about. There is mention of suicide, and that is something that drives the story in Black Paradox.
Mm-hmm. And it does become an afterthought, but the way it becomes an afterthought is kind of like, oh, well, we don't need to do that anymore because life is already better now because we're super important and rich now. But like, that's not a good way to present a solution for no longer wanting to die. Honestly, it's kind of an unfortunate trope with Japanese media that suicide is supposed to just be a quick solution to that sort of issue, even though in most cases, people who move on from an attempted suicide attempt have a long recovery ahead of them. And even if their problems are solved with money immediately, it usually doesn't take away the fact that they still no longer wish to live.
I truly hope that in time that trope fades away into non-existence.
I kind of hope that Japan as a society kind of comes to terms with the fact that suicide is not the result of immediate stress. It is just the result of mental illness as a whole.
Right. I guess before getting too heavy, we should probably move on.
Just one quick note about the Black Paradox, though. It kind of goes off the walls at some point. So,
yeah.
Like I said, Eldritch Horror, a lot of that happens in like 2.5 seconds. So, if you really like that kind of thing,
yeah, the type of stuff that just goes off.
It goes off the rails, and then it just normalizes right at the end. Like, yeah, we're bad. We're cool. We're bad. Like, it just literally, that's what happens. But moving on to the next one.
Okay, Remina.
I met Remina's eye. An unknown planet emerges from inside a wormhole, and its discoverer, Dr. Oguro, christens the body Remina after his own daughter. His finding is met with great fanfare, and Remina herself rises to fame. However, the object picks up speed as it moves along in its curious course, eliminating planets and stars one after another, until finally Earth itself faces extinction. Is the girl Remina the true cause of the catastrophe? A masterwork of horror from Junji Ito, unfolding on a universal scale. The planet noticed our existence.
This is another example of, I would say, both eldritch and sci-fi horror.
Oh
It's
yeah,
kind
absolutely.
of a mix.
It's a mix.
Honestly.
It's a good mix. And honestly, if you guys saw that movie on Netflix, Don't Look Up, the ending has that vibe.
Yeah.
Just not as funny, more terrifying, really.
Yeah. Okay, and we're not really able to make fun of the main character the same way we did DiCaprio.
Yeah, no, because unfortunately it is a girl who is age appropriate, who is not age appropriate, going through this.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's an adult, but she's like, if she were to date DiCaprio, it would be age inappropriate.
Is that your way of trying to fit in a burn?
Maybe, shut up. All right, moving on to a palate cleanser for this entire episode, especially the sad stuff.
Yes.
Junji Ito's Cat Diary, Yan and Moo.
Hello, kitty. Master of Japanese horror manga, Junji Ito presents a series of hysterical tales chronicling his real-life trials and tribulations of becoming a cat owner. Junji Ito as J-kun has recently built a new house and has invited his fiancée, Ako, to come live with him. Little did he know his blushing bride-to-be has some unexpected company in tow. Yan, a ghastly-looking family cat, and Moo, an adorable Norwegian forest cat. Despite being a dog person, J-kun finds himself persuaded by their odd cuteness, and thus begins his comedic struggle to gain the affection of his new feline friends.
Swear to God, I read the description as it's read, as it's written.
This is honestly my all-time favorite book from Ito. And it's not even really, it's not scary at all.
And it has photos of his cats in
I just
it.
really like cats.
Like, like it's got photos of his cats, and there's another story with the Maltese right at the end. So, it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, fun fact. So originally he drew his wife without pupils.
And then she got offended because she knew that that's how he draws his villains. So he drew tiny little dots in her eyes. Because, that's what she asked for. She wanted regular eyes, and, never tell an artist how to draw or what to draw.
This was a really fun act of malicious compliance.
It really was. Yan and Moo, highly recommend. There's nothing really to spoil. It's just a guy with his cats.
Yeah, just to let you know, one of those cats are judging you.
All cats are always judging you, even the soft-faced one. Like, look at him. Like, this one right here is saying, "Aw, bless your heart."
I see it now, and I hate that.
Well, like we said, this is the one where we gushed about Junji Ito and all his works, but we should probably make quick mention of literally everything else in like the next 5 minutes.
Okay.
Great. So let's speed run in the next 5 minutes everything else about Junji Ito.
Okay, ready? Okay.
3, 2, 1. Two of his homeboys, Hideo Kojima, the creator of motherfucking Metal Gear Solid,
Castlevania.
Well, he didn't create Castlevania.
No,
he just made a game from Castlevania.
So,
but he did make PT, that one game that Markiplier, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye.
That's my whole point.
Yeah, and also Junji Ito had a hand in that one too. So he helped design the fucked up parts of it. And also Guillermo del Toro, creator of Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy franchise, The Shape of Water, and Crimson Peak. I am saying these things in a really intense way because I'm very excited. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're trying to speed run through it as well.
But like they are friends with Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del
Toro and Hideo Kojima are both friends with Junji Ito, and they have done work with him. And the one thing that all three of them made together was Death Stranding, the video game. It's a beautiful work of art, to be honest, and it's quite the thinker.
Right. So you guys probably know Guillermo del Toro, but if you want to know, like, briefly who Hideo Kojima is...
Fuck Konami, by the way.
Yeah, he had, like, a whole scandal with Konami, And
he wasn't the bad guy.
And he wasn't. That's all we're gonna mention. If you want to know more about that,
go on YouTube.
Go on YouTube.
There's a bunch of videos about it. Trust me. To just type in Hideo Kojima Konami drama.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, it's Guillermo del Toro. If you don't know who he is, I don't know what to tell you. Go watch more movies or something.
Yeah.
But like also, this is part of the reason why I wanted to make this episode, because Guillermo del Toro put out a stop motion adaptation of Pinocchio, and it got so much attention the moment that they announced it was being made to right when it was being edited, voice acted, everything. And all Junji Ito got was a poster or two and some small ads that you would have to look for on YouTube yourself if you wanted to see them.
Like, you had to hunt them out yourself. Your feed was not going to recommend it to you. And
it feels really unfair because they're friends.
They are. But
they've worked together.
They have, but I think what Netflix was doing was they were kind of thinking about, okay, what does the West recognize? And unfortunately, I think Guillermo del Toro just has a little bit more fame than Junji Ito, and I think that's what happened. But that being said, there is a huge group of people, even in the West, that really love anime.
And are also just as obsessed with horror as we are. And they promoted Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities to no end. Like, every week I saw an ad for it up until all the episodes of it were posted on Netflix. But not a single thing about Junji Ito's stuff, which kind of just shows that Netflix only promotes certain names in certain projects.
Yeah.
And it really sucks because a lot of great shows are on Netflix and they get canceled by the first season because they don't promote their own things.
Seriously, Netflix, what the heck?
Like, they keep saying they don't cancel successful shows or they don't cancel shows that are good, and yet they keep canceling shows that are popular and good.
And honestly, it's just because they're not giving these shows a solid starting line.
They're not.
Like, they're just not. They're not giving them a fair starting place at all. They're not promoting it to the same level. They're not doing the work.
Exactly. And like, if they're gonna say like, oh, but it's analytics and it's this and like it depends on I watch so much horror on Netflix. I didn't get a single recommendation. I also watch a ton of anime. Not a single recommendation.
And quite frankly, like, how many of you have just had days where like you're not entirely sure what you want to watch? You don't honestly care and you just scroll through Netflix.
And then you find something and it turns out to be a gem.
Exactly.
And it's amazing.
Yeah, like, people who watch Netflix have time. They make time to watch Netflix.
They really do. And it's infuriating that they couldn't give this beloved creator the attention he deserves.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Now the NFT thing, really fast.
Yeah.
A little while back, he put out a Tomie NFT. So, yeah.
Okay, real quick. I'm not entirely certain
it's a scam.
that I know. Okay.
It's a scam. That's all you need to know.
That's all I need to know.
That's all you need to know.
Okay.
It's a scam.
Because I wasn't entirely certain of what it was.
Think Pokemon trading cards, but without the Pokemon trading cards.
Like digital Pokemon trading cards.
It's like a promise of you getting a trading card, but you never actually get a trading card.
Okay, so it's a scam.
It's a scam. All right. Well, that was the one where we gush about Junji Ito.
Yeah. And apparently there's a Tomie NFT out there.
So
if you want it.
Feel free to screen cap it when you see it.
Right.
Because also there's no tech behind the NFTs preventing anyone from just screen capturing it.
Wow.
So you could literally just own it.
Okay. Well, have fun with that, guys, if you choose to do that.
Yeah, and go read every single thing Junji Ito has ever made, buy every single book, every single piece of merch that comes out, so that way Netflix knows that they goofed it so hard.
And I know this was a long one, but honestly, there was just a lot to say about Junji Ito, and
love
we
him.
hope that we've convinced you to go check him out, to go look at his work.
Yes, we are obsessed with this man.
Yes.
I'm obsessed with
And we hope you enjoyed this episode. We will, again, we'll see you next time. We'll try to get this out as soon as possible. Thank you so much for listening. You know, all the links to social media and stuff will be down below, and we'll see you later.
Bye-bye.